Alright, y'all, my friend Pagdrea told me that I was gonna scream in this episode, so let's see. We are back with And the Haze Will Take Us, Season 2, Episode 2. Y'all, it's been a while, like, the semi-finale of my apprenticeship is coming along and I'm extremely stressed, but don't worry, I always try to find like a calm moment where I can actually squeeze this in because I feel like I want to create a schedule to get everything under control. Like on the sidelines, I also am doing my driver's license, so there's a lot going on, but I want to know what's going on because this is actually temptation, what my friend has been giving me. How many secrets can you endure before you step into the darkness? Just one. Episode 2, tell me. Simona froze, startled by the sudden laughter. Who is laughing? She clutched the fabric of her dress, not daring to turn around. Do not turn around. Oh my goodness, what did I tell you all about those ugly-ass dresses? No matter, maybe it's not my time. Maybe it's not my time. No, thank you. It's not gonna get any better than... Yo, please. Please. Look at all this. You know what? We're going for the priesthood, okay? Shame me for all I care. Simona glanced over her shoulder. Her rag gasp caught in her throat. No one was there. Y'all were slowly going insane. She looked back at the rows of dead sheep. There wasn't a drop of scarlet to be seen on the ground. Some invisible force had drained them dry, greedily, hungrily. Something had laid the poor animals in neat rows like funeral gifts. Again, in my eyes, I think it's the haze. I think the haze is slowly draining the entire... I don't know, like that small little city that they're all living in. Simona sank to the ground. Her fingers squeezed the fence post, but it didn't help. The ground seemed to give away beneath her feet. What do you want? She looked around and hoping that the icy wind buffeting her heart would carry her rage to evil spirits, screamed even louder. What do you want? Simona reached between the post and touched the sheep's wool. I mean, we did care about those sheeps. That is fucked up. We mostly spent our time with the sheeps. Now all of a sudden they're dead. Is this like just us? Now that I think about it, did only our animals die? Or did everyone else's animal die as well? Because if everyone else has died, then this is like something the haze or the god are doing. She wrapped one curl around her finger, twisted it as she'd used to when the sheep had been alive. Their frozen faces and empty, soulless eyes reflected her devastation. It was painful for her to look at them. Simona lay on the grass with her arms outstretched. She didn't know how much time had passed and she didn't care. She didn't allow herself to suffer and didn't torment herself with thoughts that everything held dear was slipping away into the night. She didn't think about anything. Her heart was heavy and empty, but it was time she got used to it. I knew I'd find you here. Simona turned her head. She watched Tata's feet cross the grass for a moment and then stared at the clouds again. Tata lay down next to Simona. Her hands rested on her stomach and her fiery curls merged with the grass. Many animals died last night. Tata's quiet, gentle voice caressed Simona's ears softer than a feather. Simona pursed her lips and said nothing. Tata turned her head to her, and when Simona met her gaze, she interlaced their fingers and whispered, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. So it really is not just ours. That's fucked up. Like... What are we supposed to eat? We're gonna die here, y'all. Simona closed her eyes and whispered back. Me too. You know, I did a lot of thinking that night the Kyoshi came. They were still speaking very quietly, as if afraid their voices would break the moment. What are you thinking about? Us. Oh my goodness gracious. Honestly, add fuel to fire. Tata kissed her. Add fuel to fire. Tata propped herself up on one elbow as her eyes flicked to Simona's face. Simona felt a hint of fear as Tata leaned over her. What are you... Oh my god. Tata brushed Simona's mouth with her soft, velvety lips, feather light and innocent. Simona didn't immediately return the kiss. She opened her eyes wide and stared at Tata's trembling lashes. Tata pressed her lips harder, clumsily scraping Simona's thin skin with her teeth. Their breaths caught. They both felt like the rapid beating of their hearts low in their bellies, spreading warmth throughout their entire bodies. Simona dared to part her lips, but Tata suddenly retreated, rushing to lay back down. You kissed me. I know. Tata squeezed her eyes shut and pursed her lips as if biting back the unspoken words. She was breathless, her cheeks were heated and her chest was heaving. Simona gave a little laugh, more embarrassed than joyful. Tata chuckled softly in response but didn't open her eyes. Am I like Ista and Vlasta? In what way? They kiss each other when no one's looking. I liked it. But how can we, just like that, because we like it? Tata was rambling, agitated, stubbornly refusing to open her eyes. Oh my god. Her eyelids trembled with tension, and Simona realized that Tata was afraid to meet her eyes. There was still a sour smell of grief in the air, over those who'd been taken into the fog, over the animal's death, over the whole series of misfortunes. What they were doing was ridiculous, in more peaceful times, perhaps even wrong, but did it matter? She didn't have the energy to worry about that too. What's going to stop us? Why do you want to do this with the witch? Her name's SIRIN. So would you? Oh my god, the jealousy. The gel sauce. You know what I think is funny? This is the exact same rage shit I feel when I play Estrella's Broken Heart. Everyone is getting their fucking kisses, but with the people that we actually want. Malik, Michael. We got a nice little moment with Raphael, but that's not the point. We keep on having David shoved down our throats. And again, I like David, but come on now, if you actually give us love interest and allow us to play. What makes you think that? I remember you saying she was beautiful. I feel like this is like the problem in this time of day. Because there are so many people out in the open, out of the closet, and you never really know who actually is straight or lesbian or bisexual or pansexual, don't really matter. You immediately assume, because this is the time we're living in, when someone says, oh yeah, she's beautiful, that you immediately have a crush on them. But I have eyes, I can see. I just say you're beautiful. That doesn't necessarily mean that I think you're attractive. Are you jealous? Not at all. Yes, you are. I was just wondering if you like other women. I don't know. You don't know? You're the only one who kissed me. I haven't really thought about it. Tata's eyes widened in indignation, then glowered at the sky. Simona's words seemed to have stung her, of course, because she's like, okay, so you haven't thought about it, so you just kissed me back because you felt like it. But there was no real feeling behind it, and it could be possible that I could be replaced. Okay, thank you. Was she the only one dwelling on things she shouldn't think about? Simona leaned over but froze when she saw Tata stiffen. Shall we try again? Tata swallowed then nodded uncertainly. Simona approached her timidly. She pulled Tata's bottom lip into her mouth, grasping in between her teeth, running her tongue slowly over it, and tracing its contours. For a moment, time seemed to stretch and everything else lost significance. There was only touch, their frenzied breathing, and Tata's fingers nervously clutching the fabric of Simona's dress. Simona puckered up her courage and opened her mouth a little wider, prompting Tata to respond in kind. Simona's tongue propped deeper, and Tata let out a soft moan as deafening as it was unexpected. Simona recoiled, startled. Did I do something wrong? Tata hid her face in her hands and hurriedly shook her head. I don't know the right way to do it. Did I hurt you? Tata lowered her hands and looked at Simona, her face hot with shame. No, Simona, you did everything right. They exchanged awkward glances, neither one fully understanding what had just happened. While only fooling around, they had discovered something unknown, something bigger, something they couldn't even begin to comprehend. You've entered a path from which there's no back. Yes, I either started the way of bisexuality or pansexuality. And I feel like I need to put this in here. Maybe I'm just such a big yaoi fangirl or like a stan. I have the view on like a sexual preferences like a pansexual person. But I'm straight. If that makes sense somehow. I don't know, like, if you guys want to get deeper into this, like, I'm all in for it. Like, let me know in the comments. I'm always happy to discuss things. You all know by now. Simona stood up and brushed the grass from her dress. Her hands were shaking. I feel bad for her. I feel like she hasn't come to terms with her sexuality. And that's why she's now shocked that we reciprocated her kiss. I ran away. My father must be worried sick because of everything. She was suddenly filled with a terrible shame at having forgotten about what had happened, though only momentarily. Tata rubbed her neck in embarrassment. I understand. Are you coming with me? No, I'll stay here for a while. Simona nodded and ran toward the village. Her mind kept returning to Tata's moan, her breath on Simona's face, her scent. Gods, what's wrong with me? We started something we can't finish. Because I can't get a fucking kiss from DRAGAN the same day. Still, frightened people were gathered in the center of the village once again. They shouted loudly at each other, exchanging looks and arguing. My goodness, that poor man! He just got out of the fucking haze! Leave him be! The elder stood in front of them. His face had a worried expression, but he tried to remain calm. He held up his hand, demanding silence. We're here to understand where this trouble came from. Let us not rush to judgment. This is not the time for outrage. Oh my god. Not the time. What about our animals, Elder? But that's not his fault. He doesn't hold that much power. The dead drained of their blood. Blame your gods. You told them that they needed sacrifices, right? You were willing to kill so many animals. Now the gods said in order to defeat the haze, because of all the people that were dragged into the haze, making it stronger, we need more animal blood. The murmur grew louder. Another voice rose from the other side of the crowd. The children's laughter at night, but there were no children around. No, it's the evil spirits roaming our fields. Simona leaned forward, disturbed by those words no less than the others. I wasn't the only one who heard laughter then. The crowd murmured with renewed vigor. A woman beside Simona hugged her baby, tied her to her chest, looking around in fright. Ozar grabbed Simona's elbow and pulled her to him as if the woman might harm her. Oh, Ozar! I don't think we saw him last episode. Be careful. An angry crowd is more dangerous than evil spirits. He right? The sacrifice, the blood of the animals didn't work, but let us not fall into chaos. It could be some kind of wild beast that came from the beast. It wasn't a beast. My husband also heard a boy laughing and saw his dead sister reaching for him. They're all signs. It all started when the stranger came. He brought his trouble with him. Right. One person responsible for the entire human to be annihilated. I can't. I get what she meant. I get what my friend meant. The fuck? He's one fucking person. One. Are we gonna do this like Zeus? No, hold up, not Zeus. Jesus? Again, I'm not religious anymore, but I do remember what my mother had told me and what I had learned in church. God sending his son to earth, having him turn human just to die for the entire human population so that we could live. Something like that. This is how we're doing things? He came here, so he is the one creating all of this. We've all seen what's going on. It's his curse. Right. He has invented disaster upon us. He must be sacrificed to cleanse the village. The spirits demand his blood. The gods demand it. The fuck is wrong with you? Dalla's voice boomed over their heads. Are they even realizing what they're saying? We cannot sacrifice a human. Novak's blood won't save us. But his words didn't stop any of them. What? Are they gonna start a riot? Riot towards DRAGAN's mother's house in order to get him, to sacrifice him? Are they nuts? Y'all, they are so fucking afraid of dying or of being actually captured and being dragged into the haze that they're actually willing to step so low. What does that say about them, though? Again, I understand. They want to live. And as much as they are bitches in my eyes, everyone deserves a chance to live. But not under those circumstances. Again, if I'm willing to kill another human being in order for me to feel better about myself or something, then I am not better than the person that wanted me dead with malicious intent. Because I'm willing to do the exact same thing when my measurements are short. The crowd parted, letting 3 men through. DRAGAN and another villager were dragging Novak, gripping him by his arms, although he didn't resist. The fuck? He was barely dressed. Apparently the man had woken him up. Wow. Animal blood didn't help. We must make a greater sacrifice. His blood will appease the spirits. I'm sorry. Nah, again. Pagdrea. She told me. She let me know. She warned my sorry ass. The fuck is even happening? They're dragging him out. Literally, this is the exact nice definition from dragging him out by his hair. They are willing to kill him. Oh my god, I could... Oh. Even the magus and high priestess said so. Yet you won't listen to them. He's a human being. Someone who survived being trapped in the haze, and instead of thinking that this man actually could be the reason for the haze to stop taking people, and that the haze, sorry if I have to say like this for the people that are in the gods' path, are stronger than the gods, and that you have just been putting a fire into gasoline by praying to the gods instead of like trying to find ways to understand the haze. They say he needs to be sacrificed. The elder cast an irritated glance at the other leaders. Simona looked at Oza, who was standing next to her. I agree. With the elder? So much blood has been spilled already. DRAGAN shoved Novak from behind, making him fall to his knees. The crowd surrounded him but didn't get too close. What are they doing? Stay and see Novak's fate. I'm not zooming out. Simona wedged herself between 2 women and a man and stopped in the second row. She peeked over the shoulders of the villagers as they spat curses at Novak. The fuck? Admitted you caused all of this, didn't you? This man, at this point, that would be my reaction. They don't even give him the chance to explain. He just was spit out of the haze. Just now. He has no fucking idea what's going on. He's just coming to terms with the fact that he's finally out of the haze and that he survived. And the second day that he wakes up, he's being dragged to be sacrificed. What reaction would you expect out of this man? I would be numb and silent too, because what the fuck can I say? They immediately have already put a sentence on me. They decided that I am to blame for what's happening. So why should I waste my last remaining energy, as I already have none, to try to convince you that I did nothing wrong? DRAGAN raised his elbow in a fierce gesture and hit Novak hard on the back of his head. The blow was powerful, without an ounce of compassion. There was anger in it and promise that there would be no mercy. Novak winced but straightened up despite the pain. Neither a groan nor cry nor plea for freedom fell from his lips. Again, what is he supposed to do? Imagine you are being in a village of, I don't know, let's say 100 people. And you are the one person from 99. And these 99 people literally drag you off. What can you do? His silence awakened the dark fury of the villagers, stirring up silt from the bottom of their souls. The first stone whizzed past Novak, but it was followed by other better-aimed throws. The stones hit him one by one, leaving bloody marks. Novak flinched under each blow and clenched his jaw harder. Admit it, you filthy scum. Can I kill him? Please? I'm begging you. Where is Lane from Heaven's Secret Requiem from last episode when you need her? I need her to take over or MC's character and actually smack the shit out of him. Begone. They do realize what they're doing, right? They are no better than the Kyoshi. Do they even realize that? Because the Kyoshi be dragging off innocent people into the haze, killing them, draining them of their life energy, and they're willing to do the exact same thing. They're throwing stones at him. Begone. Wow. Half naked, beaten, he looked at them with disgust, his head held high. Honestly, ladies and gentlemen, my respect for this man keeps on fucking rising. I'm just gonna look at you in disgust, but I'm not gonna say shit, because I did nothing. And I'm not gonna fuel your hate, because that's what we be thinking. If we admit, yes, I did it in order for them to leave you alone, you've thought wrong, bitch. You say you were wrong, and then they are even more inclined to shit on you. Because they're like, yes, I knew it. Like, they're Karens, all of them. Blood trickled down the tense muscles of his abdomen. The fuck that no one is actually doing something. Honestly, at this point, I would be standing in front of them. With all due respect, because I would be in that situation in the past. You'd be willing to do this to someone else. I'm standing in front of them. Like you throwing stones at him, you throw stones at me too, kill me too. Maybe that way you will actually realize this. It's so sad that you actually need an innocent life to be sacrificed for people to realize that what they're doing is wrong. The crowd belted Novak with stones, but he continued to kneel, never lowering his head. After all, he had experienced far worse horrors and pain in the haze. That's not a reason. You see, I am strong. I can be strong. Because life sucks, so I need to grow a backbone. But I shouldn't have to be strong all the time. My point lies in the half. I can be strong, but I shouldn't have to be strong all the time. And just because he has experienced way worse in the haze, that doesn't give anyone the reason to expect that this man has to go through worse pain. The hell. After all, he had experienced far worse. Ozar watched the shower of stones hitting Novak. His face was expressionless. Are you sure? The elder gripped his cane tighter, striking the ground irritably, and approached the magus. Remind them of the gods' appeal to their hearts for crying out loud. Without taking his eyes off Novak, Ozar said calmly, This is not about the gods. This evil thing that came out of it is not human. A human couldn't have survived there, and the villagers' hatred for him might work in our favor. My grandson is right. Let the village decide what to do with the stranger. What are you doing? You're as bad as the evil spirits. Honestly. You're still young and your blood runs hot. Understand your objection. Maybe you're right. You can let me be the villain, but I'll do what it takes to save the village from the cursed haze. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why I'm all for Path of the Haze. Because as much as they have a point, the Kyoshi, let's be real, they're fucking terrifying. And they are capable to do atrocities. But before they came into the Haze, they used to be human. And they're completely neglecting that. Because they see what is happening right now. And what they're not seeing right now is that they're behaving worse. They're actually throwing... Y'all! The crowd was so consumed with anger that they didn't notice a feminine from darting among them. SIRIN burst forward, swift as a shadow, but determined, no less angry than the others. She stood in front of Novak very straight, despite her disheveled hair, so slightly and firmly that the villagers stopped raging and froze with stones still clenched in their fists. Here comes the witch. She knows what it feels like, so I feel she will have some sympathy towards him. DRAGAN hurled a stone at SIRIN. It hit her in the face and broke the skin on her cheek. Uh-huh. Go away, witch. They'll turn against you too. They have been on her back ever since the story started, so... Shut up. Period. DRAGAN froze under SIRIN's merciless glare, then came to senses. His eyes bludged as he screamed with renewed vigor. Witch. What's the... Y'all? What did I say? Karens. They're ready to blame whoever for their misfortune. And then they think by killing him or her that everything will come back just fine. But you see what's gonna happen. They're gonna actually provoke the bear. Cause more sacrifices to happen. I don't know. Maybe this time it will be loved ones that will die. And then they will feel the need to commit an even bigger sacrifice. It will never stop. SIRIN. DRAGAN didn't have time to throw another stone at her. DRAGAN. Caught his hand and squeezed it tightly, forcing him to open his fingers. DRAGAN, get some fucking sense. I don't know what you all be doing. That's enough. Amen, my good sis. The elder came towards SIRIN and Novak. His voice was trembling with anger. Whoever throws another stone will be exiled into the Haze. I will personally throw them to the Kyoshis. No, DRAGAN needs to go. He's intimidating them. This should bring them to their senses for a while. They're afraid of evil spirits and will do anything to avoid meeting them. The shouts gradually subsided. SIRIN's shoulders relaxed. She cast a quick glance at Novak. He nodded in silent gratitude. The elder looked at Oza and the high priestess. His gaze was like a red-hot knife. Me too. The priests and the magus will find the bodies of the dead and return them to the funeral lots. Maybe then things will calm down. The high priestess nodded obediently, but the magus only grinned at the elder's stubborn instruction. Simona couldn't look at Novak any longer. She couldn't be one of those who took delight in his suffering. She wanted to approach him, but Oza stopped her, grabbing her wrist delicately. You don't touch me. I'm so fucking mad at him. Considering what he said and that he didn't believe in the gods as much as he does, yet seeing someone be mistreated like this, he had no fucking problem watching it. Simona looked him into the eyes. Don't be coming to me. It seemed that the magus wanted to say something but didn't dare. I could care less if you don't have the fucking balls to talk. Then don't be coming to me. He pressed his lips together and released her with a barely audible sigh. You're cruel. Soft-heartedness is sometimes more cruel than destruction. Right. Again, bye. Everyone has their own truth. You can justify anything. You're judging me. Didn't you just judge me? He just judged or hard, didn't he? Yet I do the exact same thing. He's a hypocrite. I am. What if it saved your life? With all due respect, ladies and gentlemen, as much as I want to live, I don't want to live in a life like this. With all due respect, respectfully. Stop it. Stop what? Pretending. His lips were dangerously close. Simona took a step back. Oh, right, we did play him too. Sorry. Nana, I'm mad at him. Goodbye, bitch. Stop pretending you're doing any of this for me. Alright, it's not for you, but for everyone. Is that enough? No. No, it's not. Ozar looked down at Novak, who was still on his knees watching the retreating villagers with a baleful look in his eyes. Simona turned around. Novak was watching their exchange. Don't trust them. I trust who I want to trust. All right? And he may be right. Maybe he knows more because he has the God's blessing and whatever. But I'm gonna judge things by myself. Allow me to make my mistakes. Allow me to make my experiences. I want to believe. That's what I said in the last episode of Heaven's Secret Requiem too, y'all. I am who I am, and I can't change that. I don't want to allow awful experiences to destroy who I truly am. It's supposed to make me grow stronger, but my values will always remain. I have a pure heart. I want to help people. I want to save people. And people like Novak, I want to protect them. They deserve to be protected because no one should have to go through an awful shit like this. And did we realize who the real monsters in the story just were? The villagers. They saw that he already looked rough. And instead of actually trying to find reasons like to have this man actually say what happened in the haze or something, if he had something to share with them, the only thing that they did is picking up stones and actually throwing them at him. Oza stared intently at Novak's splattered face. He seemed to have heard every word of their conversation. Who should I trust? You? Period. Oh, period. No one. Trust no one. That's a fucked up way to talk about this. I'm gonna trust who I want to trust. Because trust no one, what life would I have? The Haze could have sent him here. And what has he been doing? Nothing. The Haze took your friend. It's taken someone from each of us. Maybe Noah came to take what's left. Simona straightened at his words. They pierced her spine like needles. Oza didn't say anything else. Instead, he turned around, merging with the dispersing crowd. Novak slowly got up from his knees and told SIRIN through gritted teeth. There was no need for your sacrifice. I didn't do it for you. They shouldn't get used to acting this way. They shouldn't become embittered. There will be no turning back. Novak nodded and didn't argue any further. He stood with a slight stoop. His hand clutched his side where stones had struck him in the same spot repeatedly, as if on purpose. His ribs bore a terrible purple mark. I'm sorry. Novak quickly looked up at her. SIRIN opened her mouth slightly, then added hurriedly, I'll get some water and tinctures. We need to treat your wounds. Simona, will you help him? Of course. SIRIN went to her house, still proud and fearless, indifferent to the hatred in the eyes of everyone who looked at her. Novak sat down on a bench without taking his hands off his side. Can I take a look? He stared at her for a long moment, then nodded slowly and dropped his hand. Oh, I feel bad. It's not as bad as it looks. Don't you be doing all this bullshit with me, son. I should be the one reassuring you. Novak didn't speak or even move while she examined his wounds. Simona looked at him, froze. Her heart lurched. His intense stare was locked on her. It looked like he'd been watching her the whole time. Are you a priestess? Not anymore. Don't be coming to me. Not anymore. Yes. Have you entered the Haze? Why is he asking me? It sounds even more ominous coming from him. No, but I have a friend who wanders out there. She swelled with pride at her cold, lifeless voice. VOLOT taught me that. He must be full of pain, but you'd never suspect it, met with the solid wall of his indifference. How did he end up there? He was exiled. For what? He's so curious. Because we actually are one of the few people that actually are willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. Everyone immediately throwing stones. We're the only ones that are trying to understand. For murdering my sister. Novak didn't say anything, just clenched his teeth so hard that his jaw muscle twitched and his eyes gleamed. Yeah, apply this to the ruse. SIRIN had returned quickly and was a little breathless, but her face remained fierce, as if she were irritated that Novak needed her time. And yet she was in such a rush. Thank you. He touched SIRIN's hands as he'd done with Simona's parents, but the witch pulled away. Novak misinterpreted her gesture. I won't hurt you. He looked at Simona. Either of you. And I believe that. It's fucked up. And what are we seeing? He's only showing who he truly is and what his intentions are to the people that actually are willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. We both stood up for him. Back in the day, like, I'm not sure if he was actually awake, but we were the ones to say that he should stay at our house. And we would make sure how he's doing and everything. And the next day, he's being brought there to court to be killed. And SIRIN went in there to help. So he's showing who he truly is. I can say the same. Oh, be quiet. SIRIN explained how to tend the wounds and hurried off, leaving behind the faint scent of herbs. Simona dipped the cloth in warm water and pressed it to his split eyebrow. Novak didn't move. He kept looking her right in the eye. This man, I feel like he has a crush. Already. His attention was different from the way Oza sometimes looked at her. The magus eyes pierced her like burning coals, creating a storm of emotions within her heart. He looked at her so intently, like a predator watching his prey waiting to pounce on her. There was no challenge in Novak's eyes, only a question. He regarded her with interest, as if he were peering into the depths of clear water, because he don't understand. What doesn't he understand? That we're on his side. He does not understand why we're not as embittered with what's happening inside of the Haze like everyone else. We're one of the few people standing up for him, and that makes him curious about us. She saw no desire to attack or intimidate her in his gaze. Novak was looking for answers to questions he hadn't asked yet, or perhaps hadn't even thought about it. When he touched the hand she was using to press the cloth to his face, Simona realized that she had been just standing there unmoving. His fingers slowly moved to her wrists, brushing her birthmark. Simona recoiled and tucked her sleeve up to her fingertips. I recognize the symbol. Did you see it in the haze? Novak nodded. It was carved on the tree. What else did you see? I must have seen a lot, but I don't remember anything. For someone who doesn't remember anything, you know too much. He touched her wrist with the tip of his fingers and muttered under his breath. No, I don't. I will never know enough. He will never understand the cruelty of humans. Simona felt his cool breath. Novak piqued her interest, perhaps too much, perhaps. What are you drawn to, the haze or him? Both. I have the path of the haze. He intrigues the shit out of me. No pun intended. They were still looking at each other. They were awful to you, says you. Vincient's voice roused Simona out of her stupor. Novak took the cloth from her and pressed it to the bruise to himself. Simona sheepishly hid her hands behind her back. I'm surprised you didn't do it as soon as I set foot on your land. This shouldn't have happened. She gave the elder a disappointed look. Simona remembered the villager's face, their clenched fists. How everything that made them human gradually disappeared from their eyes, leaving only fear behind. She'd felt something similar when she'd looked into the Kyoshi's eyes. I should go. Thank you for your help. My heart. He spoke so seriously, so sincerely, that she felt awkward. Vencia watched her go. I wonder if she's still angry at me for what I did. As she left, Simona suddenly realized that VOLOT had been avoiding her. He hadn't approached her or spoken to her, and every time she caught his eyes almost hidden behind his skull, he'd turn away. Yeah, he kind of feels... he's trying to put on his defensive shield with us, because he saw that we chose someone else over him. Yet again, the priest ignored her signs of attention. The high priestess was talking to him and patting his hand as he stood tense and motionless. Is he all right? Later. Okay. Nobody discussed it. It was neither communication nor planned, but soon the villagers gathered at the edge of the fog, their stern, unyielding faces weathered by winds and grief. They had come to say goodbye to those who'd gone into the silent embrace of darkness, those who'd been taken away by the Kyoshi, leaving no trace, no hope. The rattle of wood, the rustle of old rags, and the ringing of copper pendants all formed the sad rhythm of the ceremony. People brought precious items, bronze jewelry, scraps of clothing, and treasured trinkets that had once warmed the hands of those who'd been lost. Those pieces were placed on the ground next to the fog right on the border. Perhaps people hoped that their relatives and friends poisoned by evil spirits would still remember the way home and stretch out their wide, stiff hands to take their belongings into the fog. And yet the villagers knew well that their voices wouldn't reach the other side, couldn't reach to part. But the rite brought them peace. The fox, silent and heavy, accepted their gifts. Simona hesitated, crumbling a strip of fabric that had once belonged to Mylan. Mylan had been exiled, so normally the village would have forgotten about him, leaving no trace. That was exactly what had happened. No one had said goodbye to him. Even his parents hadn't been allowed to, and Simona had meekly accepted the rules. She passed by the pile of objects left in memory of other people, and every time she thought, I have to say goodbye. Not today. He wouldn't have done it for me. I won't. I have to say goodbye. This is like us actually accepting what has happened, I feel. We were close after all. And in my eyes, even if someone else wouldn't have done it, I'm not you. So, in order for me to be better, I'm gonna behave the exact same way. And this has nothing to do like with your enemy, but with someone that you let in. He used to be close to us. He used to be our friend. We loved him. He was family. So even if we have the feeling he wouldn't have done it, I'm going to do it because I'm not doing it necessarily for you. I'm doing this for me. I want to maintain the love that you gave me before I thought that you were the one to kill my sister in my heart. You taught me, you brought something into my life. Positivity more than negativity. And as I treasure that, I'm gonna actually say goodbye to you because I feel like that's what you deserve. But after Simona had seen Mylan in the form of a Kyoshi, she couldn't get the image out of her head. She realized that if she wanted those thoughts to go away, she would have to say a proper goodbye to him. Simona sat down on the ground, her legs tucked under her. She placed a piece of fabric which had held the linen Mylan had brought her on the grass. You often brought me food while I was tending the flock, and now both you and the flock are gone. She pursed her lips and looked away from the fog. She felt foolish addressing the void. Mylan wouldn't hear Simona. It was all in vain. Honestly, I'm not so sure about that. I have the feeling that they could. I didn't have anything of his, but I once gave him a dance. Tata sat down next to Simona in the exact same position. We love Tata. That's silly, of course. She sighed and began picking at the ground thoughtfully. Dancing for the haze and imagining that your friend's murderer is watching you. She shivered. It sounds awfully strange. Simona smiled faintly. It looks like we've all lost our minds. It looks like it. They fell silent when their eyes met. Tata bit her lip nervously, but didn't avoid eye contact anymore. Is it wrong to want to do these things with a woman? Who can I even ask? SIRIN. Y'all, I started a bisexual baz, okay? She wanted to embrace Tata, capture her lips, forget herself, and hide from grief. To have what lovers and spouses had in each other. Tata rose to her feet. Some people want me to dance. I'll see you tomorrow, all right? Simona didn't want to say goodbye to her so soon, but nodded anyway. Simona was in no hurry to leave. I want to see DRAGAN. Is that much to ask? Like I got my nice ration of Novak, now I want to see DRAGAN. She heard the muffled sobs and ragged sighs of those who were bidding their loved ones a final farewell. She heard their muffled voices whispering names, fragments of memories, requests. Simona couldn't share their pain. Her own tears had long since dried, becoming a part of her. We didn't... Path of determination is also the path where you feel like you have to be strong. Again, the point is on have. They were no longer running down her cheeks, but remained hidden somewhere deep inside like stones at the bottom of a river. 18 years ago, the Kyoshi took away even more villagers. If this continues soon, there will be nothing left of us. Simona wanted to stand, but the high priestess put a hand on her shoulder. Stay, I'd better sit down with you. Why is she still with us? With all the respect and concern. Why is she still here? Did she not see that we are not fine with her? Simona helped the high priestess lower herself onto the grass. They were in no hurry to talk and sat in silence for a few minutes. Then the high priestess' quiet old voice pierced the silence. Did you find anything at Virius? Simona looked up at the high priestess. She used me. She wants to know something, but she doesn't want to let me in. If the high priestess isn't completely honest with me, why should I be? I better save the truth for myself. Period. Love that for us. Exactly. She wants something from us. And she knows that she's not allowed inside that woman's house. So that's why she used us, knowing that we would be curious enough to snoop around. But that's all it. She wants to use us and then get rid of us when she doesn't need us anymore. No. Simona shook her head. No. Nothing at all. Nothing. The priestess' mouth turned up to the corner. She sighed, shifting her gaze to the fog. What a pity. Oh well, never mind. Does Vencia know something? Why did you ask me to go to her? Even though she may seem strange at times, she sees things that even I, the high priestess, cannot see. I cannot see the dead, but Vencia sees chains of events. Why don't you ask her yourself? I can't. Never ask her why she does this or that. She'll never tell you. Why? Yes, too many questions. Sometimes you simply trust. Now help an old woman up. Simona grabbed the high priestess' arm and helped her up. She felt the high priestess' lean, whirly body through her clothes. I wonder what the high priestess looked like when she was young. Is there anyone in this village who doesn't keep secrets? Maybe there was once, but now they're wandering in the fog. The high priestess saw Simona's face fall and smiled apologetically. Don't be angry with me. You're too tense, Simona. And you're too careless. I just know that everyone's patience has its limits, and soon they'll make the right choice. The high priestess squeezed Simona's shoulder carefully and hobbled toward the others. The villagers reached for her as if she were one of the goddesses. Lately, she and the priestess had been treated as if they were the only thing standing between the village and the Haze. Perhaps they were. Simona returned later than planned. Her feet dragged. She didn't want to go home. She didn't want to pass by the empty pasture and enter the house, which, while not empty, was full of regrets and sorrow. Or maybe she was the source of those feelings. No matter where she fled, they always followed her. Simona thought about her sheep. She was trying to figure out who could have taken not only their lives, but all their blood, leaving only ash and flesh. Who could have been so ruthless? And whose cursed laugh had she heard? Honestly, why did they only kill the animals? They keep on saying that humans' blood is much more potent than animal blood. Why did they only kill the animals? Again, I feel like this is just a killing the animals so that we can actually survive, because we need to slaughter those animals. Are they not interested in human blood? Simona stopped abruptly and gave a strangled cry. Everything inside her froze. What is happening? In the dark by the roadside, a tree suddenly appeared, strange and broken, its roots reaching up. What is all this black blood? It was upside down, ripped from the earth with crooked, deformed branches. Thick black blood trickled slowly down the bark. It dripped onto the ground, forming puddles, soaking into the earth and creeping ever closer to the feet. What is this? Me. You'll learn. Who's there? A quite barely audible whisper was coming from everywhere, ringing through her head like an echo. The fox wayed ahead, beckoning silently. Simona swallowed her fear, primeval and ancient. The whispers continued, but she couldn't make out the words. She wanted so badly to take a step into the white mist. It seemed that all the answers waited there. We want to step into the haze, y'all. Who's gonna save us? She wouldn't be able to find what she'd lost. Perhaps she didn't need to fear what was hiding on the other side. We're gonna be a public danger, y'all. Not just for herself, but for other people too. Her legs wouldn't obey, and the fog crept closer, as if it were stealthily approaching her, not the other way around. The tree had vanished, and there was only a white wall in front of her. Oh my god. Simona stumbled, her body slowly giving in to that ominous call. All she had to do was take another step. It will be over. What will be over? Oh my god. The endless pain and unanswered questions. Oh god, I feel like a path of the haze also means that the haze has power over us. Whose voice is that? Mara's? Yours? Nobody's? Simona reached out, dipping her fingers into the cold whirls of fog. It swallowed her hand, hiding it in its tight embrace. Her skin tickled, but the mist touched was gentle, soft as the clouds. What happens if I go in there? Will the tree turn right side up? Oh my god. Y'all, what is happening? A sharp pain shot through her head, as though her thoughts and memories had tried to dash away. She clutched her head, but the call was stronger than the pain. I need to enter the haze. I need to see. Oh my god, she stepped into the fog but was stopped by Volot's hand. Volot saved this crazy bitch. The fingers that had taken lives wrapped firmly yet gently around her wrist, carefully not accidentally hurt her. My goodness gracious, y'all. Oh my god. No, that's so cute. He's like, bitch, where you think you're going? You can't just leave. The priest pulled her closer, snatching her away from the power of the haze. He pressed her to his chest and took a few steps back, pulling her with him. He hugged her tightly as if afraid that she would lose her senses, break away from him and rush back in. Simona felt their hearts beating together as one. Volot could only hear her heart pounding in anguish. Don't do that again. His whisper was almost silent, his breath hot across her ear. But Sonny boy, you can do it, why can't I? She didn't say anything, just gave a frightened nod, brushing her chin against his hand. How long have you been hearing it? Hearing the call. Since I turned 18. She squeezed her eyes shut and asked quietly, do you hear the haze too? It used to call out to me. It wanted me to hear something, but it never urged me to come in. What did it tell you? I wouldn't listen to it. It is the voice of evil spirits. I don't think so. Why? I don't know, it's just a feeling. Volot didn't let go of her, but she didn't struggle. She felt surprisingly calm in his arms. Simona didn't notice how she was squeezing his arm, bludgeoning with dense muscles. We see him as our anchor, as our salvation, because he stopped us from going into the haze. So right now we feel the need to squeeze his hands, like dwell in his embrace, because he saved us. Volot tilted his head as if he wanted to hear her breathing better to make sure that she was alright. Simona suppressed the urge to lean toward him, touch the cold skin of his cheek. She wanted to look up into his eyes. He was scared for me. If she were bolder, she would have expressed her gratitude, but she was afraid she might scare him off. She was cautious, just as she would be when approaching a wild creature. He might flee, but he might also fight. He was stronger and wilder than anything she was used to. In the meantime, all she could do was enjoy the warmth of his body, the firmness of his chest pressing against her back, and the sound of his voice. Imagine now again if Dragan finds out. But suddenly Volot pushed her away as if he'd been burned, and cold reality returned, breaking their bond. Don't go near the haze. Ever. He spoke more sharply than was necessary, as if it weren't just her in danger, but him too. Simona stood in front of him. Her face reflected his fear and her own confusion. There was a painful silence between them. If only she knew, if only she knew. Thoughts of her stabbed the priest's soul. But even at that moment, when there seemed to be a wide gulf between them, the attraction remained, ready to flare up again the moment they moved closer again. But she knew she wouldn't stand near him. She would have run away, fearing him as much as the others did, perhaps even more so. Volot should have told her, warned her. He should have said, run, because I'm going to kill you. I'll do it. I'll have to. Only he couldn't. Simona groaned softly, clutching at her temples. Her vision blurred, the pain blinded her, and all the priest said was, go to SIRIN. She'll help you. This is what happens when you see and hear Nav. Simona just nodded and let him lead her to his house. She trusted the priest so much, carelessly, meekly, blindly. While his face grew hard, almost frightening, his eyebrows lowered ominously over his dark eyes, his lips pressed together, unmoving, his jaw clenched, appearing more square than usual. She should have been running away, not walking hand in hand with him. Mokash was mocking him. Thank you. I've never had a headache this bad. Her thin, weak voice pulled him out of his thoughts. We're almost there. And a couple more steps SIRIN would lead her away. He'd never approach her again. Only at the fateful hour, if he had to, if his visions weren't lying. You see, this just shows how much he truly cares about us. He'd be ignoring us like the plague, but the second he saw that we could be in actual essential danger, he immediately dropped everything that he was planning to do, as in ignoring us. You trust VOLOT more and more, should you though? Yes. Simona sat on the table watching SIRIN sort through her herbs. The witch remained tangerine. She met the priest's words about Simona's headache with stony silence. Sometimes Simona thought of SIRIN and VOLOT as stone statues, always gloomy and detached. She thought she was reclusive, but she was no match for them. When did your headache start? When I saw the upside-down tree, and when the ace asked me to enter it. Simona hesitated to voice her thoughts. She was afraid to put what she'd seen into words, afraid it would make what had happened real. State of denial. Until then, it all could be explained as illusion caused by fatigue. SIRIN turned to Simona, looked into her tense, pained expression and smiled. I understand. Everyone in this cursed village has secrets. Her words inspired hope in Simona. Maybe that's the reason for her troubles. SIRIN ground the herbs, but put them into a bowl and added warm water from the jug she'd been eating. Our troubles are not caused by secrets. It's just that we're bad people. There are some people. There are some good people. SIRIN handed her the brew. But there are more bad than good. Amen, my good sis. I can't say anything about that. She right? Simona touched SIRIN's hand to draw her attention. What kind of person do you think you are? Good? Bad? She's the necessary evil. Don't be naive. I've never been good. You are. Why do you say that? Because I'm a witch. Simona searched for the right words to change SIRIN's mind, but she knew it wasn't possible. She took the first sip and asked quietly, Are there many witches in our village? There may be others, but they are smarter than me and managed to conceal their nature. Simona took a few more sips. Her mind worked furiously, thinking about SIRIN's words. What if she really isn't the only one? What if one of the witches killed Veria and forced Malin to lie? She'd never even considered the possibility that SIRIN could have done it. Here you go. SIRIN put a birch bark box in her hand. What is this? You've covered in bruises after that night. This ointment will help elevate the pain. SIRIN gently touched the scratches peak from under Simona's sleeve. The witch's fingers were dry and cold. Her touch made Simona's skin tingle pleasantly. I can help you rub it in. Simona imagined SIRIN touching her skin, rubbing the ointment, and swallowed nervously. Please help me. All right. Get rest. Fully? For some reason, there seems to be bruises all over your body, so yes. SIRIN turned away and began rummaging in the herbs as if she'd already lost interest in Simona. Simona exhaled and reached for the hem of her dress. Why do we have bruises all over the place? Why is my heart beating so fast? SIRIN opened the box and dipped her index and middle finger into the vicious greenish shelf, leaving 2 carved imprints. The witch's gaze wandered over Simona's figure, seeking out even the slightest cuts and abrasions. Simona held her breath as the witch's eyes fell on her breast and then moved lower. SIRIN was looking for bruises, but they weren't the only thing she saw. In the candlelight, she could see everything. Simona was naked in front of her, body and soul, sitting on her table waiting impatiently. Why didn't you come to me earlier? Maybe that's why your head hurts. You must have hit it, or maybe Kyoshi struck you. Her voice dropped until it was almost a whisper, losing its command. I thought it would go away by itself. SIRIN gently touched Simona's forearm, where one of the Kyoshi's hand left a purple mark. Simona shuddered and sucked in a sharp breath through clenched teeth. It will go away on its own, but how long will you suffer first? The coolness of her fingers mingled with the warmth of her breath. Simona's pert nipples were so close to SIRIN's face that she inadvertently pictured the witch touching them with her lips. Simona squeezed her eyes shut, feeling her cheeks heat with shame. SIRIN leaned closer. She pressed her hand to Simona's skin, carefully spreading the ointment. SIRIN tried not to hurt Simona, but rubbed hard enough to make sure that the ointment was fully absorbed in her skin. The coolness of her hands ignited Simona's skin. She tried very hard not to tremble. SIRIN didn't look up at her. She kept running her fingers over the wounds left by the Kyoshis, as if trying to erase both the pain and the unpleasant memories. She was in no hurry. Every touch, every gesture was deliberate. The room was silent. except for the soft whisper of their breathing. They didn't speak, and it was as if they plunged into the unknown, left the real world behind and drowned in ritual bliss. There was only one bruise SIRIN hadn't touched yet, and on the inside of Simona's thigh. SIRIN trailed her fingers over it even more gently and innocently than she had the others. Simona arched her back, her breath hitched, rushing from her chest with a startled gasp. She felt a painful, demanding throbbing between her legs, responding to SIRIN's touch. Simona's body longed to the touch again, and that responsiveness that needed scared her. The catch in her breath roused them from their reverie like a bell in the night, and they were jolted back to reality. SIRIN pulled her hand away, her voice a little tense as she said, "You can take care of this one yourself." Simona felt her embarrassment grow, but at the same time she couldn't forget the tenderness of SIRIN's touch. SIRIN hastily and irritably washed her hands in the basin. Simona put her dress back on. "There are no deep wounds. Everything should heal soon." SIRIN didn't turn around. "Thank you." Simona sounded so distraught that the witch scolded herself. She returned to the table and looked into Simona's face. "I've been unfair to you, Simona." "What are you talking about?" "I'm not interested in men. Only women, and..." She looked away when she saw Simona's eyes widen, either in horror or disbelief. "You're probably undressed because you thought I wouldn't be attracted to your body." She's straightforward. Again, love straightforwardness. "I wouldn't have touched you. I really wanted to help. But I should have told you." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because she wants us to know." "Like I said." "Yes, but after this, your confession loses all meaning unless you saw how much I enjoyed it." "You're attracted to SIRIN and she felt it. Well, my lips weren't Tata's this morning. What am I doing?" "We're going for the women because the men are stuck in the mud." Simona jumped off the table. "I should go." SIRIN clutched the rag she had used to wipe her hands. Regret and anguish flashed across her face, an echo of her endless loneliness, but she didn't try to convince Simona to stay. "Go." Simona hesitated. She felt sorry for SIRIN, but something stopped her. Some kind of subtle warning that she shouldn't give SIRIN false hope, that she needed to think carefully and understand what she wanted for herself first. "I know I want DRAGAN. I want DRAGAN, and I want Novak. Yet, Novak is giving me a little bit of his time, and DRAGAN no idea where he is." If Simona didn't want to hurt SIRIN, she had to step back. "Thank you for the ointment. I'll see you soon." She closed the door behind her and pressed her back against it for a moment to catch her breath. Something shattered loudly on the other side. It was dark outside when Simona left the witch. The priest was sitting on a bench with his hand in his hands. He looked deeply concerned. "VOLOT?" He started when he heard her voice and raised his exhausted eyes to her. "What? Are you all right?" "I had a bad dream." "When did you fall asleep? Do you often have such dreams?" Violet gave her a sharp look, sharp enough to cut flesh, to end lives, to make people disappear. Why the sudden change? What's troubling the priest? The distance between them was growing, and the silence was oppressive. Simona had almost forgotten her question by the time Violet replied. "More often than I like." His voice sounded as if it were a matter of no importance, yet there was a hint of anxiety in his eyes. She just nodded, feeling his words push her even further away from him. "I'll go then." Violet didn't say anything. He watched her intently and closed his eyes only when the door shut behind her. "Anything you want to tell me?" Sisters know. They always know. She's like, "Bitch, you want to tell me something?" All this anxiety, all this fear. SIRIN leaned her shoulder against the wall and folded her arms. Volot's eyebrows lowered ominously over his darkened eyes. "No." "Yes." "No." Period. "What do you want?" His voice was somewhat rude, almost threatening. Usually calm and reserved, Volot always chose his words as if they carried a special weight, as if they could hurt as much as his hands. This man feels the need to stay away from us, but because he already has feelings for us, staying away from us hurts him more than he wants to admit to himself, and that's why he automatically lashes out to us And instead of actually saying that we should fucking leave him alone, he feels the need to actually just show that he is nonchalant about the entire thing. No emotion betraying this man's words. And that's already enough for us to see that there's distance building up between the two of us. Each phrase was considered and scrutinizing, therefore seeming strong and unshakable. But in that moment it was a flash. Something hidden inside him spilled out. SIRIN tensed and straightened. VOLOT had too much bottled up. Yep. SIRIN worried that the fire smoldering deep within him might flare up and burn others. What's going on between you and the young priestess? That's the question, ain't it? VOLOT stood up, indicating he was finished with the conversation, but SIRIN put her hand against his chest. She's like, shut the fuck up. Answer me. Again, I appreciate straightforwardness. Answer me. VOLOT bent down, squeezed her hand, and shook her off. You're treating her, and I'm destined to hurt her. He stared over her head. Oh no. He has the feeling that he can protect us. I won't interfere with you. My gush can change the pattern. Until that happens, I won't go near her. You were near us today. Sonny, didn't you see that you saved us? You prevented us from actually going through worse. We were ready to go into the haze. You stopped us. You helped us. You saved us. The priest squeezed her witch's shoulder. And you'll take care of her. Even SIRIN shut up that time, y'all. She couldn't say shit anymore. Simona's mother was sitting by the window, peering into the darkness, thoughtfully running her fingers through her hair. Even though she'd survived the night with the Kyoshi, she was still heartbroken. Simona brought her some warm water. Drink it and go to bed. The roosters will grow soon, and you haven't any sleep yet. Her mother turned to her and smiled broadly. Veria. Not Veria. I'm Simona. Remember? Her mother's eyes brightened, but her smile faded. No. Her voice was surprisingly firm and resolute. No, you're not Veria. Veria is standing beside you. What? Simona slowly looked over her shoulder, but there was no one behind her. She didn't question her mother, but grabbed her hands and pulled her along. Come on, I'll take you to the bedroom. It seemed to Simona that she could escape from the approaching icy breath. Sophia yielded to her daughter's pleas and got up. But for some reason, Simona was drawn to the faint reflection in the darkened mirror. She was peering into it, not taking her eyes off, when something vaguely suddenly flashed in the murky depths and she saw Veria's silhouette. Simona almost cried out, but stopped herself and took her mother's upstairs, keeping her feelings to herself. Her mother didn't want to go to bed. She kept clinging to Simona's hands and begging her to sit with Veria so that she wouldn't be alone. Simona barely managed to free herself from her mother's grasp. The silence of the house was oppressive. Simona knew her mother was right and her sister was waiting for her. Why are you doing this? Why are you scaring me? Why aren't you telling the truth? She gritted her teeth irritably and went downstairs. Her anger made her bold. Period. Simona was breathing heavily. The sound of her breathing was so loud that she couldn't hear anything else. She stood waiting for something, but she didn't know what it was. And then out of the corner of her eye, she saw something dark move, incautiously attracting her attention. The fuck? Now the Haze is here? Simona turned quickly, but the figure had already disappeared. Veria? She turned to the window. Her heart began to pound as she saw a shadow flicker on the other side and immediately disappear, swallowed by darkness. Veria? Simona walked slowly to the door, turned the handle, and went out onto the porch. We are so fucking crazy. Oh my god. The woman had her back to her. Neither alive nor dead. It wasn't her sister. She stood with her arms at her sides, tilting her head up to the sky. She was looking at the stars, swaying slightly as if the wind were moving her. Who are you? Oh my god. The woman turned slowly to Simona, moving her feet awkwardly. I saw you in the forest. Simona took a step forward. What are you? You shouldn't be here. Why do I have the feeling that this is us? She looks like us. The words ripped from her lips as an unshakable truth, but Simona didn't know why she'd said it, nor why she was so sure of it. But she was sure. The woman shouldn't be there. Oh my god! The woman's eyes lit up like the blind eyes of the Kyoshis burning in the night. Her mouth opened and a guttural voice came from her throat. One star fell, another faded, and only the last remained shining. Huh? I want to believe that we're stars. I'm a little disappointed that we didn't see DRAGAN, but the story keeps on getting better and better. I don't know what to tell you. I'm so happy. I hope you enjoyed this video with me. Tell me in the comments below what you think was best, and I will see you in another video. Bye.